was a heavy night, the scent of blood lingering in the air and an indescribable pain. Her face, once a symbol of beauty, had been ravaged by the beast's fangs down to the bone, leaving her a corpse barely recognizable, but this was just the beginning. His raging fury transformed into a torrent violence as he bounced on the family dog, tearing it to shreds and scattering its limbs. What sparked this savagery and who committed this act? Could this brutal violence be the results of demonic possession, as the killer claims? Do you even believe in demonic possession and that it can transform you into a murderous beast? Is this evil force real, manipulating us? Or is it merely a case of psychological illness and hallucinations? That's what we're about to find out. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button, as it really helps me to keep going. On the morning of October 6, 1947, the pale dawn broke over the sleepy town of Ossett, Britain, as it drew its last quiet breaths. In those moments, Officer Ian Walker began his day as usual, bidding his wife a quick farewell before heading out in his patrol car. It was his routine patrol. A journey to the town had grown accustomed with only passing glances. It started like any of his usual round, but this morning would not be like any other. And it was a day that Walker would never forget. As Walker patrolled the streets, a strange sight disrupted the town's normal routine. In the middle of the empty road stood a man, completely naked and covered in blood. Walker's eyes were immediately drawn to the scene, causing him to stop for a moment. Quickly, he pulled over and got out of his car, approaching to the man who appeared to have emerged from a terrifying nightmare. The man, his emotions, a mix of bewilderment and madness, was kneeling on the ground, curled up in a fetal position, as he was trying to shield himself from something. As the officer drew near, the man let out frantic cries, going between hysteria and dread. "It's the devil's blood! I've killed the devil!" The scene was horrific and inexplicable. Walker called for an ambulance, unsure if the man was injured and the blood was his own, or if he had committed a crime and the blood belonged to someone else. And as usual, the crowd gathered around the man, immediately recognizing him as Michael Taylor. The officer asked if they knew what happened to him and where he lived. Armed with the address, he took Michael and headed to his home. When he arrived, Walker was surprised to see the place swarming with the police cars. One of his detective friends, known to be as one of the most skilled and seasoned, warned him, "You don't want to see this one. I've seen nothing like it before, and I've seen a few. It's the wife. He's ripped her apart. It's a real mess in there. There is barely anything left of her. Trust me, you don't want to see it." Gathering his strength, Walker stepped inside, only to be met with a scene of pure horror. The place was covered in blood and dismembered body parts. Michael's wife was mutilated, as if a savage beast had mauled her. Her eyes gouged out and her face ravaged to the bone. And beside her lay the family dog, ripped to shreds, its remains scattered everywhere. What had happened here? Why did Michael kill his wife and the family pet? Wait, a sec. Was it Michael who did this? Yes, my friend, it was Michael who committed this atrocity, and with his bare hands, no less. But who was this Mike, and what had happened that fateful night? Who then is Michael Taylor, the man who suddenly appears in the dead of night, naked and covered in blood, raving about the devil's blood? The secrets behind his actions remain enigmatic, surrounded by a haunting aura of horror and endless questions. Michael Taylor, a 31-year-old man, had seemed to live an idyllic life. He was a father of 5 children and the husband of a woman named Christine, owning a small home in West Yorkshire. In 1973, Michael was known for his moderate moral character and kindness, making him beloved by his neighbors. He worked as a butcher, and his life was as normal and stable as any ordinary person's. But behind the facade of this happy life, his obscure family was slowly sinking into the dark depths of depression. Gradually, things began to change for Michael. He started withdrawing from social life, distancing himself from his family and friends. A previous back injury that had prevented him from securing a stable job was believed to be the root cause of his declining mental state. Yet, Michael was still seen as a loving father. The Taylor family was not known for their religious background, and despite their close proximity to the churches, they never had the time to regularly attend services. However, the town of Osset, where the Taylors had moved, was known for its deep religious character. One of Michael's friends advised him to go to the church and participate in spiritual rituals, as it might help him to get over the depression and poor mental state he was experiencing. Maybe they could exorcise the evil spirit or the negative energy inside him. When Michael realized the depth of this idea, he became convinced that he must use these forces to heal himself. Michael went to the church and requested to join a group called the Christian Fellowship, led by a young woman named Mary Robinson. Michael began spending increasing amounts of time with Mary, who organized religious meetings and classes teaching the power of God. They would do exorcism sessions, helping people they believed were afflicted by demonic possession or evil spirits, using various methods to test if the person was truly possessed or just had a psychological issue. Michael became deeply religious, attended every prayer or meeting organized by Mary, immersing himself in her teachings at a rapid pace. But was Mary truly capable of healing Michael? Or was his depression the result of a genuine evil force? Over time, Mary started organizing private sessions with Michael, where they would sit face to face while she made the sign of the cross over him for hours, sometimes up to 8 hours or more. But as Michael participated in these sessions, the other group members noticed that his condition didn't improve, rather seemed to be getting worse, which made his wife, Christine, become suspicious. When Christine accompanied him to one of the meetings and confronted him about her suspicion of his cheating, she was shocked by what she witnessed. Something seemed to have broken inside Michael, and instead of talking to his wife and calm her down, he began attacking Mary with viciousness. He looked at her like a monster, his eyes blazing with terrifying glares. He verbally and physically attacked her, hitting her until the other members intervened to stop him. As the scene escalated, Mary felt intense terror and began reciting her prayers, knowing that the name of God was the only thing that might save her. When Mary started repeating God's name, Christine joined her in trembling recitation as well. Mary felt as if her life was on the line, certain that she would only survive if she continued to call upon God's name. Later, Mary said that the man before her was not Michael, but a horrifying monster. In the next morning, Michael claimed that he didn't remember what had happened and that he deeply respected Mary, insisting it would be impossible for him to harm her. Mary forgave him, believing he had not been in full control of himself. However, the other worshippers didn't forgotten the incident and began speaking ill of him, claiming he was suffering from demonic possession. But this was no ordinary possession. They decided to perform an exorcism on Mike. On October 5th, 1974, Father Peter Vincent and Reverend Raymond Smith met with Mike in the Church of St. Thomas in Gobberg, where Mike had been attending services. Little did they know the tragic consequences this encounter would bring. On the evening of October 5th, 1947, inside the St. Thomas Church in Barnsley, in the presence of the clergy and a number of church members, including the Christian Fellowship group as well as Michael's wife, the session began at midnight. The clergyman began reciting religious litanies in Latin, and without warning, Michael was seized by violent convulsions, transforming him into a savage, predatory creature. He began attacking the clergy, trying to prevent them from completing the rituals. The clergy decided to restrain him to the chair, with bindings to restrict his movement. Despite this, Michael continued hurling insults, curses, and spitting at them, trying to disrupt their chanting. fighting. Michael's strength was superhuman, as he nearly tore free from his bindings by clawing at them. For 8 hours, he was subjected to physical and psychological torture. A wooden cross-shaped object was forced into his mouth, and he was drenched in holy water. Yet he continued to muttering strange words and trying to get his hands on the clergy. After their relentless efforts, everyone present was dead on their feet. Michael had collapsed, and the rest were running on empty. The clergy then informed them that they had managed to expel 40 demons from Michael's body, representing sexual desires, animalistic urges, atheism, and debauchery. But they warned that 3 stubborn demons remained, the ones responsible for his murderous tendencies, madness, and rage. The clergy had failed to exorcise these, so they decided to postpone the rituals to another session, especially as it was now 8 a.m. and everyone was completely spent. Whispers were creeping through the old church walls, as if chased by invisible shadows. In the dark room, the vision seen by Raymond's wife seemed like a grim prophecy cloaking the night in its own nightmare. So, what was this prophecy? Among the crowd was Mrs. Margaret Smith, the wife of one of the clergymen, who looked deeply worried. She clung to strange words, telling her husband, Raymond, that she had a troubling vision, that Michael, the man who leading the session, would kill his wife, Christine, if he left the church. Raymond tried to pour oil on troubled waters, telling his wife that the situation was in hand, and that it would be best to call it a day so everyone could recharge their batteries. Both Michael and Christine had decided to head home after the harrowing session, looking for rest and calm. When they arrived home, Christine went to the kitchen to prepare some food for her husband. Meanwhile, Michael went to the bathroom to wash up and change his clothes, presenting a calm and reassuring demeanor. But what Christine didn't know was that a hidden dark cloud was wrapped around him, determined to lurk behind every forced smile. After Christine put the finishing touches on the meal, she picked up the tray and made her way to the living room, set on serving her husband a comforting meal. But when she entered the room, the sight that greeted her was shocking. Her husband, Michael, was not waiting for her, but something else entirely, a creature of darkness, its eyes gleaming with a deathly shine, and the smile Christine loved had transformed into the expression of a bloodthirsty beast. Suddenly, Michael pounced on Christine like a wild predator, dragging her into the depths of terror. It was the nightmare that Mrs. Margaret Smith had dreamed of, and it had become a reality. With his bare hands, he had crushed her neck and ripped the flesh from her face down to the bone, leaving her corpse unrecognizable. He then unleashed his wrath on the family dog, tearing it to shreds and scattering its limbs. Fortunately, their 5 children had been staying with a neighbor that day and were spared from the horrific attack. Afterwards, Michael exited the house, his naked body covered in blood, and began wandering the streets in a daze. An ambulance took him to the hospital to check on his health, and then the police car transported him to the station for questioning. At the station, Michael encountered Detective Brian Smith, repeating incoherent, trembling words. "I've been set free. I'm free. It's done. I've destroyed the evil within her." In the dark interrogation room, the gleam in Michael's eyes revealed unseen wounds and unheard anguish. Every moment carried a stab from that ill-fated night, when the voices around him rose like the very screams of hell. After hours of grueling questioning, Michael sat trembling on the chair, while the detective tried to talk him down. With a heavy heart, Michael began recounting the living nightmare he endured during the exorcism session. His eyes were filled with fear and detachment as he described that horrific night, saying, "It was an unforgettable night. They danced around me like a satanic ritual and burned my belongings, claiming they were tended by evil. They imprisoned me in the church all night, torturing me mercilessly. Look at these marks on my hands. They remind me of every moment of that suffering. Those evil forces had completely taken over me, and I couldn't shake them off, just like they couldn't save me. It was too late, and I was under the thumb of those dark powers. powers that made me kill and destroy everything living in that house. When the detective asked him a critical question about the murder of his wife, Michael hesitated for a moment before answering in a shaky voice. I can't remember the details exactly. All I know is that I loved her deeply, but I'm not sure what I've done. Due to Michael's deteriorating mental health, it was decided to transfer him to Broadmoor Hospital for psychiatric treatment, where he would be detained until his trial. During this time, Michael spent long periods in silence, sleeping deeply and overwhelmed by sorrow. He seemed to be trying to escape the horrific memories of his crime, but those memories haunted him, clinging to him like an inescapable nightmare. The trail of Michael Taylor started in March 1975. The case, as described by the prosecutor Jeffrey Baker, resembled the witchcraft trails of the Middle Ages. During the trial, the defense lawyers did not deny that Michael was suffering from a chronic mental condition and psychological disorder. Even Michael himself didn't deny this, claiming that he couldn't remember what had happened because he was under the control of evil forces. He alleged that he had doubts about his wife being possessed by demonic powers. The defense team went on the offensive, zeroing in on the Christian Fellowship group, as they were behind planting these ideas in Michael's head and filling him with negative energy. They also pointed a finger at the strange rituals the clergy had performed that night, which had really done a number on Michael's psyche, driving him off the deep end and possibly even brainwashing him. On the other hand, Father Peter Vincent tried to defend the church, saying, "If people come to me for help in any kind of trouble, I'll try to help them and bring them comfort to the best of my ability, for I am an ordinary human with the human flaws." And after several sessions, the court found Michael not guilty of killing his wife, as there was no motive for murder, and the crime was deemed a state of insanity. Michael was sent to the hospital for 2 years of treatment, and then transferred to the Royal Bartford Hospital for another 2 years before being released. This case really opened a can of worms among the people about Michael's mental state after his release and whether he might repeat his crime. There was a lot of back and forth about the legality of these exorcism sessions and their connection to abuse. As a matter of fact, that exorcism session was the last one to be performed in Britain. Regarding Michael Taylor, he was released after completing his treatment period. The spotlight was back on Michael Taylor, but this time it wasn't just about a gruesome crime. There was another shocker in the works. After a period of silence and disappearance, Michael was back in the limelight, accused of committing another heinous act, sexually harassing a young girl. In the crowded courtroom, shocked faces gathered to witness the verdict being handed down. The court found him guilty and sentenced him for 3 years in prison. The sentence wasn't the only thing weighing on everyone's mind. The big question was just how deep the shadows that still haunted Michael went, and what other secrets might come to the light in the days to come. There were a lot of unanswered questions swirling around. Was Mrs. Margaret Smith's prophecy just a vision, or a chilling warning of what was to come? How did those dark forces creep into Michael's soul and manipulate him in ways no one could understand? And most importantly, do you believe in demonic possession? Could it really drive people to commit murder? Or is this all just a case of deep-seated psychological issues? Let me know your take in the comments. So what really happened that tragic night when Michael committed that terrible crime against his wife Christine? The details are still a mystery as more questions arise. Will there come a day when the secrets of those dark shadows are finally revealed? Or will the questions remain hanging while the spotlight continues to shine on a story full of enigmas and secrets that may forever remain hidden in the shadows? This was the story of Michael Taylor. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support is what keeps me going. See you in the next video.